The Clockmaker's enigma. In the narrow streets where gaslight mingles with shadow, where cobblestones hold the weight of countless midnight wanderers, there exists a shop that time itself seems to have forgotten. Behind a window clouded with years of dust and mystery, gears turn in impossible directions, and pendulums swing to rhythms that make the heart skip. Tonight, we step through that threshold where minutes become memories and seconds stretch into eternities of regret. The brass nameplate reads Aldrich Timepieces, though few dare to knock upon its weathered door. For in this place, time does not merely pass, it whispers secrets that should remain buried in the darkness of yesterday. Master clockmaker Elias Aldrich has spent 40 years in solitude, his weathered hands crafting mechanisms that measure more than mere moments. His workshop breathes with the gentle symphony of 100 timepieces, each tick a heartbeat in the chest of eternity. Grandfather clocks tower like silent sentinels, their pendulums catching fragments of moonlight that seep through grimy windows. Pocket watches rest in velvet-lined cases, their faces gleaming like small moons in the amber glow of oil lamps. But tonight, something unprecedented rests upon his workbench, a creation born from months of fevered inspiration and sleepless nights. The clock stands no taller than a man's hand, its case carved from ebony so deep it seems to absorb light itself. Silver gears spiral within its transparent heart, moving with a precision that defies earthly understanding. The face bears no numbers, only symbols that shift and change like living hieroglyphs. Elias steps back, his tired eyes reflecting the hypnotic dance of the mechanism. For the first time in decades, uncertainty clouds his expression. The clock's hands move backward, each tick drawing the present into the past with relentless determination. He reaches toward the winding key, then hesitates, his fingers trembling not from age, but from an inexplicable dread that settles in his bones like winter's chill. Outside, the town of Millbrook sleeps beneath a canopy of stars, unaware that their peaceful slumber balances on the edge of something extraordinary. Mrs. Eleanor Hartwell dreams fitfully in her cottage on Elm Street, her subconscious wrestling with memories of harsh words spoken to her late husband. Young Thomas Fletcher tosses in his narrow bed above the bakery, haunted by the accident that claimed his sister's smile. Dr. Margaret Reed sits awake in her study, staring at patient files that represent failures she cannot forget. The clock's backward ticking grows louder, each sound rippling through the fabric of night like stones dropped into still water. As Elias finally turns the key, a shiver runs through the very foundations of reality. The silver hands accelerate their reverse journey, and the symbols on the face begin to glow with an otherworldly luminescence. Time hiccups. Eleanor Hartwell jolts awake to find herself standing in her kitchen, flour dusting her nightgown, the scent of burnt bread filling the air. But this kitchen exists 20 years in the past, when her husband still sat at the table reading his morning paper. She watches in horror as her younger self storms through the door, voice raised in anger over some trivial slight. The words she spoke that morning, words she has regretted every day since his sudden death, spill from her lips like poison she cannot swallow back. Thomas Fletcher finds himself once again behind the wheel of his father's car, his sister laughing in the passenger seat as rain begins to spatter the windshield. His hands grip the steering wheel with desperate strength, trying to change the outcome he knows is coming, but his younger self remains oblivious to the patch of standing water that waits around the next curve. The tires lose their grip, the world spins, and his sister's laughter transforms into a scream that echoes across 25 years of guilt. Dr. Reed discovers herself in the hospital corridor where she made the decision that cost a patient's life. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead with the same harsh frequency, and the clipboard in her hands bears the same fateful prescription. She knows the error, sees it clearly now, but her past self remains blind to the decimal point that will change everything. The medication dosage stands incorrect, and despite her desperate attempts to warn her younger self, the past remains immutable. In his workshop, Elias watches through the window as reality fractures around him. The townspeople move through their darkest moments like sleepwalkers trapped in amber, condemned to repeat their greatest regrets while remaining powerfully aware of their helplessness. The backward clock pulses with malevolent energy, feeding on the anguish that seeps from every repeated tragedy. The Clockmaker realizes with growing horror that his creation has become something far beyond his intentions. He had sought to capture time itself, to understand its mysteries and perhaps even control its passage. Instead, he has unleashed a force that feeds on human suffering, trapping souls in their most painful memories, while time itself begins to unravel. As the night deepens, the loops grow shorter and more intense. Eleanor speaks her cruel words faster, with mounting desperation. Thomas grips the wheel tighter, his knuckles white with impossible hope. Dr. Reed stares at the prescription with tears streaming down her face, unable to change what has already been written in the ledger of fate. The symbols on the clock face pulse brighter, and Elias understands with crystalline clarity that he must act before the loops consume not just the town, but time itself. Yet as he reaches for the mechanism, a terrible thought stops his hand. What if he, too, becomes trapped in his own darkest moment? What if the creation of this very clock becomes his eternal prison? But in the distance, he hears Eleanor's sobbing echo through the years. Thomas's desperate pleas for his sister to wake up, Dr. Reed's whispered prayers for forgiveness. Their anguish becomes his courage. With steady fingers that have crafted countless mechanisms, he grasps the clock's hands and forces them forward, fighting against the terrible momentum of reversed time. The resistance is immense, like trying to push back the tide itself. The clock screams with a sound that exists beyond hearing, and the workshop fills with shadows that dance independently of any light source. But Elias persists, his life's work giving him the strength to complete what he has begun. The hands move forward, slowly at first, then with gathering speed as time reasserts its natural flow. The loops shatter like glass, releasing the trapped souls back into the present. Eleanor awakens in her own bed, the taste of regret still bitter on her tongue, but free to choose forgiveness over endless repetition. Thomas finds himself once again in his small room, but the crushing weight of guilt has lifted just enough to allow hope to enter. Dr. Reed looks up from her files to see the first light of dawn painting her window gold, and for the first time in years, she allows herself to believe in the possibility of redemption. In the workshop, the ebony clock sits silent, its hands pointing to midnight as if nothing extraordinary has occurred. But Elias knows better. He wraps the timepiece in black velvet and places it in a lead-lined box, then carries it to the cellar where it will rest among other creations too dangerous for the world above. As dawn breaks over Millbrook, the Clockmaker returns to his bench and begins work on something new. A simple kitchen clock that will measure nothing more dangerous than the hours until lunch. Yet sometimes, in the deepest part of night, he still hears the faint echo of backward ticking, and he wonders if some mysteries are meant to remain forever locked away in the darkness where they belong. The shop on the narrow street continues its quiet existence, its windows still clouded with dust and secrets. But those who pass by on sleepless nights might notice that the timepieces within now tick with perfect synchronization, as if time itself has learned to be more careful with the gifts it grants and the curses it conceals.